Beware of stormy nights, neon lights, dogs that bite. Be good to those you love, God above. Don't push and shove your way around. Every time you do, you lose a little piece.
Sleep at the wheel!
All right, folks, are you ready for a little bit of miles and miles of Texas? I was born in Louisiana, down on the old bayou. Raised on shrimps and catfish, Mammy's good gumbo. I got the rambling fever, sent by to Ma and Pa. Cross that old Red River, oh, this is what I saw. I saw my...
Producing a profile on Ray Benson and his band Asleep at the Wheel is akin to corralling a pack of wild coyotes. Ray is so many things to so many folks. He's a father, he's Texas swing, he's a producer, and a giver. Whether it be sharing a stage with Willie or giving time in support of Swan Songs, which organises private concerts for individuals with a terminal illness, Ray actively participates in making life better. Growing up in a music-prolific Jewish family in Philadelphia, Ray has always had music at the core of his soul. His souls are actually 16 EEE. In an incredible journey from Pennsylvania through Paw Paw, West Virginia to San Francisco, Ray seems to have gotten to Texas as quickly as he could. Ray then became an integral part of Texas music. It seems Ray never met a style of music he didn't like. Most folks may have difficulty picturing Ray with a tuba. However, it seems he played just about every instrument. Ray's stamina and commitment to Asleep at the Wheel has seen his band survive since 1970, keeping the same high energy while 90 players have come and gone. It all started when Ray Benson, Floyd Domino, and Lucky Oceans, along with a Vermont farm boy named Leroy Preston, Virginian Chris O'Connell, and Gene Dobkin, a bass player and fellow classmate of Benson's from Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, joined forces. They began with a simple goal: to play and help revive American roots music. Asleep at the Wheel landed a gig opening for Alice Cooper and Hot Tuna in Washington, D.C. in 1970. Turn on the telly and there's Ray introducing new and upcoming Texas musicians, or with David Letterman. Happiness, and I guess every little bit of thing you ever learned to love. I love to sing and look and swell. Well, babe, I can't give you anything but love.
Nice job. Easy. Ted, how are you? Good to have me here. Ray Benson. Thank you, Ray. Always a pleasure. Asleep at the Wheel, ladies and gentlemen. You'll hear him as you scan radio channels from country music.
But I don't know more. I'm a ding-dong daddy from Cuba's Bay. You ought to see me do my stuff.
To NPR.
Ray Benson says that's what Bob Wills was all about.
The essence of Bob Wills sound, and the reason that he picked and did what he did was it was dance music, period. That's what Bob Wills was trying to do. That's from the horse's mouth. I had this interview with Bob, and that's what he said. Well, we were just trying to get enough songs together for people to dance to.
Open the Austin Chronicle or Rolling Stone and there's Ray. Go to an Austin Doobie Brothers concert and Ray's joining in with John McPhee, Pat Simmons and Tom Johnson. He's on tour. He's producing Dale Watson in his Bismeaux studio or releasing new Texas music on his record label. He knows analog and digital. He knows presidents. He drives his bus. Incidentally, the band's wheelin' in their 6th bus. So while we may roll some of Ray's credits, you absolutely know the list is only going to get longer.
Thank you so much, everybody.
I jokingly say that I make the Ray run on time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Martin Theophilus.
Theophilus with the Museum of Magnetic Sound Recording, visiting with Ray this morning, and Chris, who is also one of our board members. And we just wanted to quiz Ray about his life. If that's all right.
Oh, go shoot.
So I guess I'll start at my place of my father's birth, which is Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah, me too.
What was the first thing you did around music, or that you decided you were going to be in music or be involved in music or play music?
Well, my family was very musical, and everybody got lessons. So I started, what did I play? Recorder. They had these little recorder classes, so we played that. And then I had some piano lessons. And then when I was 9, my sister was taking guitar lessons and brought home a guitar. And I picked it up and picked out some songs, and they went, wow, you know. So then they let me take a few lessons, and that's how it started. And then we started a singing group with my sister and 2 neighbors through this guitar teacher called the 4 Gs, and we were folk music, professional kid folk music. Played with the Philadelphia Orchestra when I was 10. We sang the group, you know. And from there, just always played music, you know. And guitar became my thing, but I also played upright bass in high school, and the orchestra, and tuba in the marching band, and in Dixieland, you know, whatever. I could read music back then, and so I played in every kind of rock and roll bands, bossa nova bands, hotel bands, big bands, marching bands. And I was in the choir and in the chorus, and I just wanted to play music. You know. I also played basketball and soccer and tennis and golf, so it was just what we did. I went to college and then played in rock bands and stuff, and that's when I started to sleep at the wheel and decided that that's what I was going to do when I was 19.
During that early period, did you have recording equipment available to you, or when's the first time you heard yourself recorded, and you know what it was on?
As a matter of fact, I do. In 1960, first we recorded it. One of the girls in the group, her uncle had a home recorder, and that would have been my dad had a Webcore tape recorder. Okay. And before that, he had one of those things that you put the little cardboard records on and you record, and that'd be 1940 something, late 40s, and he would record all the babies crying, you know. He got this new thing called a tape machine. Oh, that was weird, but more on that later. But so we went and recorded there, and then we went over to a hobbyist. Somebody knew somebody who was a hi-fi hobbyist, they called it, and it was a Scully. I don't know if it was a full track or 2-track, but it would have been 1960. They would have had 2-track then, I imagine. Wow. So it was a Scully 2-track, and I remember that because I just remembered the words. And now we have one. Well, we started, and that was when I was a kid. You know, I didn't have any idea what recording was. But it was funny. I had an electric guitar and didn't have enough money for an amplifier when I was 15. And my dad had this Webcore tape recorder. Well, I noticed that the phone jack was where the microphone went. And, what happens if I do that? Plug in, turn on, nothing. Plug in, turn on, and hit record. I had an amplifier, you know, the speaker that big.
Right. And a green light probably going.
I guess, yeah, a red light, or a meter. Anyway, and that was my first amp. And then I got a job as a lifeguard in the summer and bought an amp. It was a Fender Bandmaster. But no, the recording stuff, that was it. And then the first time I was in a professional studio was when I was 18. In Mount Healthy, Ohio. I went to Antioch College for a year, and a guy had me come to play guitar and tuba on a soundtrack for a student film. But it was at Rusty York Studio in Mount Healthy, Ohio, and it was a famous old studio. That's where Lonnie Mack recorded, and Rusty York had actually had a hit record on Atlantic on Sugar Bee in the 50s, and then set up a studio. I imagine it was 2-track.
Did you do on-location recording as you started playing around, or did you mostly do studio stuff back then?
Well, when we started, I had a Sony quarter-inch tape machine with sound on sound. Tried to figure that out and realized I was not an engineer. But yeah, from day one, I was always trying to figure out how to record. So, you know, I remember we never did it, but people would come, and it's really funny. I'd love to find these tapes. When we moved out to California, a guy came and he would record all the shows he was a home guy with a stereo thing, and I wonder where they are.
When did you end up going to California?
Well, I started in West Virginia. We started the band in West Virginia in 1970, and wound up in August of '71 in California.
Did you start out with the name Sleep at the Wheel?
Yeah.
Did you just come up with that? Or
Lucky did, yeah. Lucky, my compadre, he thought up the idea 2 weeks into the band.
Wow.
Good,
cool.
and a good thing.
Right. We interviewed Floyd, and he said he joined up with you. Did he come to California? Or
He's from California, but he was living in Montana. And he'd come to visit his folks, and some friends of his said, hey, there's a band here, and they're looking for a piano player.
I went down to Berkeley over Christmas break. My grandfather was sick, and I went to see him and all that. And the night before I went back, my friend who I'd been writing songs with said, there's a band that needs a piano player. So I said, that's all I wanted to do was be in a band. So went over to their house and auditioned, and then the guys that said that I passed the audition then told me they had no say in anything. And then the leader came in, and he told me to go to the club that night. And I went to the club, and then they hired me, and they said, you don't want to move in the band house. We're very poor. You want to live with your folks, and I do not want to live with my folks. I'm 19. So they hired me, and that was Asleep at the Wheel. That was my band. Oh, wow. That was the first band that hired me, but I felt it was a natural fit.
Right.
And Ray started out by saying, now listen to this record. And I said, okay. And I came back. I said, I couldn't hear any piano in the record. Well, that's how it's going to be. You're not going to play. He was just kind of conditioning me. Right. But anyway, so that became my home band, and it still is to this day.
One of the things that was really funny as we were talking to Floyd, and he came to see the collection, is I was telling him about we had the Ampex 200A from Leo de Gargulka.
Yeah.
And he said, we probably mastered our demos on that.
And it's actually his nephew, Leo's nephew, repairs our vintage equipment.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
he's out in Northern California. Right. Yeah, Golden Gate Recorders was the place, and Leo de Gargulka was a 4-track.
It's a Ampex 200A belonged to Capitol Records, was converted to 2-track, and then Leo changed it out with Innovonics stereo.
Well, in 71, or it was 72, no, it was 71 or 2, I think it was 4-track.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 4-track.
Because right now the solenoids aren't kicking the wind motors in.
Yeah, we know about that.
It came up on eBay and nobody looked at it. And then it came by again. I told Chris, I said, I'm going to Salinas. I don't know what the deal is, but I want that 200A.
That's great. That's a rare machine.
It is. Yeah. The guy had a storage shed with everything Leo had. The Stevens, the RCA. I know. And he'd paid Leo's widow $10,000 for it, and he probably had $500,000 worth of equipment there. I don't know what he did with the rest of it, but I thought
he sold it out piece by piece, I'm sure, because that stuff became valuable. That's why I'm so glad that between here and I've got a lot of cool old stuff, because it's real expensive. And I mean, when I was scrounging, they gave me all the compressors that are now worth thousands. I got for nothing.
Wow. How long did you work there doing demos?
Oh, I just did one demo. We would do demos for all kinds of people. That was for United Artists. Del Shannon actually produced the session with us, and Del came up with Dan Burgoyes. They were from United Artists, and did that. But we did demos at numerous studios, and we worked at David Rubenstein's studio, who did the Pointer Sisters and a bunch of other people in San Francisco. I worked for Ed Bogus. He does the Peanuts soundtracks. I remember working Different Fur recording. We worked at Bobby Black's studio in San Jose. You had to work after hours because there was a body shop next door. But they were all 4-track, basically. Anyway, and then we got a record deal after doing all those demos.
I guess Willie got you to connect?
Yeah, well, I'd met Willie. We went on the road, backed up a guy named Stoney Edwards, who was a country singer, and went all out on the road and met Willie in North Carolina or somewhere. But he didn't even remember that. It was 71. That would have been end of 71, around Thanksgiving. Doug Somm was from, and he was out in the Bay Area then, and he was the first one, and they said, you need to go to Austin. And then we met Willie after we played in Texas, and he said the same thing. He said, and I'll put you on shows. Well, he was playing clubs, little bitty clubs. So we would play all these little clubs with Willie. And that's got us here. And of course the Armadillo. We played the Armadillo with Commander Cody in February of 73. Wow. And moved here at the end of 73. Or she rented houses here at the end of 73, got here in February of 74.
Some of your early influences I noticed were Jerry Lee Lewis and of course Bob Wills, which is what your current album.
Well, no, I grew up with the radio, you know, in the 50s
Right.
and 60s, and then records in the 60s. So it was thing, but no, I love Jerry Lee, and I actually got to play with him back. He came up and played with us one time in L.A. back in the or mid 70s. Count Basie, Bob Wills, but I liked so much stuff. It's hard to single on one.
Right.
It's eclectic, is what it was. You know, I played in square dance bands when I was growing up, and so I loved fiddle music. I played in the swing band and jazz band. I mean, I went to see John Coltrane in 1967. I grew up with a lot of jazz guys. So I wasn't a jazz player by any means, but I played in a blues band, the Red Eye Blues Band. Me and Lucky had in the 9th grade, you know. I played folk music. I loved the Everly Brothers, did their stuff. So, I mean, it's just, the whole idea was that I had this wide experience of musical influences.
Chris was mentioning to me that you actually book as a trio as jazz.
Yeah, occasionally.
I tried to book you a couple of times.
Yeah, it's, you know, I mostly do it for fun and try to do it, but
Right.
I have to practice when I play jazz.
So when did you found Bismeaux?
90.
90,
Yeah.
okay.
But I tried for years, tried to build a studio, for years, from the late 70s on. I think in the late 80s I started buying equipment, pieces, you know, that I would take in the studios where I would work. And then bought this place here in 1990.
So you got 2 studios, you got this.
Yeah, this B room.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your son manages the.
Son manages the studios now.
Cool.
Yeah, he's done a good job.
Yeah. And you have, I noticed that you had another son that's doing trailers.
Yeah, he's in L.A. He does movie trailers. Been very successful, and he's great. If I ever get to doing video production or whatever, I'd drag him back here. But right now, he's doing real well in L.A. I started the studio, and it was a 16-track here. Actually, I was recording for Capitol Records, and they gave me an Ampex 440, and somebody stole it. But anyway, I had a studio in my house. This would be 1976, and we had just a regular old board, a Ramsa board or something. I don't know. It was a Yamaha board, you know, a live board, and this 4-track, and we did our demos on that. And so that was my first studio. It was in my living room of this big house I had on South 6th Street. So I got the bug there, and then then I set it up over at the Opry House. I set up the 4-track again with a little mixer and would do demos over there. My office was where Arlen Studios is. Right. It was actually there, and the studio I had was across the street. It wasn't a studio, it was a 4-track in the closet with us in the thing. So then when I tried to build one over on East Side and couldn't get the financing, and I would record in Nashville, New York, LA, Dallas, wherever we sort of recorded all over, which was great because I got to see all the great studios and what I liked and what I didn't. So when I built this place, it was just a garage, and so we built the studio, and I had a 3M79 16-track. Had 2 of them because you need 2 to keep one running. And I had 2 of them, and Peavey at one time had a division called AMR, and they made a very nice. This was just before Mackie came out, so it was a low dollar, high quality mixing board, and that's what we started with. And then I had a lot of pieces of gear. I had these two channels of Trident range. I had a couple of compressors, you know, and that's how we started the place. The 3M79 16-track were incredible sounding machines, but they didn't work all the time, and they were belt driven, and the belt would break and all the things. And again, they had relays, and when you punched in, you could hear it go ka-choom. I recorded at Spencer's. My old bass player put together his studio, and we recorded on an Ampex 8-track, and then he had a 3M56, and we actually made a top 10 record on that. We did the top 20, the House of Blue Lights.
You're gonna spend the rest of your night at the House of Blue Lights.
And I said, and it was in a mobile home, and it was a mess, but I said, you know what? You can record anywhere if you have a great song, great analog equipment, and great players. It's all about getting the right mic in the right room. I remember one time we had this really weird thing. This is in a mobile home, and I'm 6'7" at the time. I'm 6'6" now, and I'm standing there and I'm recording, and it just sounds horrible. It's like and I noticed my head, there was a fixture, a little light fixture right there, and so it was like a little hat on top of that far from my head, and it was like, so if you move around a room, that's what we found out, is if you move around and get great mics, great placements, great mic pre's, and great players, then you do less of the equalization, et cetera, et cetera. So then we, after I got rid of the 79s, we became ADAT developers. I was very fortunate that the guys at Alesis sent us 3 of these new things called ADATs. And my engineer at the time, Larry Sire, who was one of the great engineers in town, he now lives in Hawaii, he figured out how to do all this DAW, digital audio workstation stuff, on an ADAT. Now, a DAW at that time cost $50,000 to $100,000. And so he took ADATs, and we started to be able to manipulate digitally, and then what we would do, and then we started getting into the guts, and we would open up the ADATs and say, why is this chip here? And then we found out that there were better chips and and better D to A's, A to D's. We started hot rodding them. Then we became an ADAT repair center. We sent our guy out to Alesis, so we had people who would bring their ADATs into repair. And we came good at it, but we would always take the ADAT and dump it to analog 24-track to get that warmth, and whatnot. But anyway, all along I kept adding equipment. Then we built the big room, and then we built it just kept expanding, and then.
Are you still using tape machines in there?
If they want, yeah. Okay. I use 2-track. We'll go to 2-track, not that one. I actually use the Ampex, but we have a Studer, we have that. Right. And I like the 48K 32-bit. I use Nuendo. We also have Pro Tools. Right. I just think that it's all gone to digital anyway, and we use analog as a tone modulator, basically. Right. But we have all the best compressors, mic pre's, EQs, etc., and so you use them in the recording process. And then mixing, we usually stay in the box, except, well, for instance, like this piece of gear over here. It's 10 channels of API guts, basically, and you just hook your Pro Tools up to it, and you get a nice analog
feel to it, so you can reproduce. What is the machine you have in the other room?
We have an MCI.
Okay.
We have an MCI 24-track and an Ampex 102, is it? Okay. And mastering, it's either 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. I use 1/4 inch because. My ears tell me it's fine.
Right.
If you feed it big enough stuff, you don't need it. If you have a thinner mix, then you need a 1/2 inch 2-track. But anyway, it's just preference. And we got all the stuff. We got a small SSL in there, and then we have the API board. It was at RCA in Nashville, and Elvis sang through it. Anybody on RCA used that board, and it's fantastic. You got 27 compressors, and we built our own mic pre's. And that was a journey that we took many years ago with some friends of mine who were great engineers out in San Jose. And we developed this mic pre, and then we've been refining it ever since.
Are you going to continue the Texas music scene? You did such a great job.
No, thanks. It's Sam records it and mixes it, and we'd love to. We'll see what happens. It's been a great thing for a lot of these young bands, and to showcase,
Right.
And so I'd love to keep doing it. So far, so good. It taped last week, 2 weeks ago. So
cool. Okay. And Ride with Bob was phenomenal. I'm sure in time, if you could do it some more, I'm sure.
No, I think that one's done. We might read it, but we did film it. It's just it was a shame because we filmed it here, and we do have it all, but it is in pieces. The problem happened was on the Saturday night we hired during the thing we had 2 cameras doing it and recorded some of it, and then the big night we had a full production thing, and 10 minutes into the play the entire electrical system went down except for the floodlights and the lavs. So we lost a lot of the first act of recording it, and which so now there's pieces here, pieces there, audio here, video here, cutaway stuff here. It would take a lot to do it, and frankly, theater doesn't sell well on film, but we'll try to get it.
Still the King tour, and that's what you're.
Yeah, we're out there now. So we just did Dave Letterman, taped Austin City Limits, another show in October of 2015. Doing a bunch of stuff.
Good.
You're also involved in a lot of community
what do my friends say? You sit on more boards than a lazy carpenter. I just got involved in the community. I've been here for 42 years, you know, and seen it grow and seen the needs of it, and was fortunate that people trusted me with their thing. I work on, well, we started the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians, in which we give health care to musicians. I was the chairman of the Sims Foundation, which does mental health for about 8 years. I'm on the board of the St. David's Foundation. We did $49 million of community health grants last year.
We were at a house concert with Christine on Sunday.
Did their, what's that called? Swan songs, yeah.
Swan songs, that's right. Christine said for me to be sure and ask you to tell us the stories about you and Junior Brown.
No.
She said that would probably be your answer.
Yeah. Chris is great. You know, I've known her for years. I actually produced a demo years ago on her. And Junior was in our band and back in the day, and she knew Junior from Albuquerque. So she was like 19. I think that was her boyfriend for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go, Chris. Now I told them about you. She's her and Chris Gage. Chris Gage works here quite a bit and is one of the finest musicians in town and in the country. And we're very fortunate to have those two guys here.
Chris helped Chris and I a whole lot get into music business in the middle 80s. So
I used to book Christine Albert for a period of time, and we've kept up with her.
Now you're from originally where?
From Suffolk, England.
Northern England?
No, northeast of London.
I only tell these to my British friends because I can't drop names very much, but Felicity Kendall is a good friend of mine. You know the actor?
Yes.
Yeah, she's from, what was it called, The Good Life?
We also saw you the other night at the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Well, they started at the same place as we did, and you know, I met them in 72, I guess, or 71. Probably 72 in the Bay Area. And then John McPhee is one of my oldest pals. He had a band with Huey Lewis, and he's one of the great instrumentalists and band. He's a monster musician. And yeah, so they're old friends, so I hang out. I mean, the greatest songs, and then John Cowan on bass. I mean, the band is incredible.
Yeah, and to be back together like that's great.
Yeah.
Will you at any point bring a lot of the early guys back? I mean, would Floyd and some of the others come back? Or
Floyd comes out with us occasionally because he's with Haggard now. But you know, when he was not with Merle, he did the Willie and the Wheel record with us. He did that tour with us. He comes and things. Yeah, we're getting inducted into the Austin City Limits Hall of Fame in June, and was trying to get them back, and they're just like Leroy's too busy, and Lucky's in Australia, and couldn't get here. So Chris, I guess, will come, and Floyd.
Who are some of the people that you produced?
Willie Nelson, Pam Tillis, Susie Boggess, Darden Smith, James Hand. The people I produce on our albums, everybody, George Strait, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, you know, and just look at the credits. There's 3 albums, everything from the Dixie Chicks to the 3 Bob Wills albums, and then also our other albums always have people collaborating.
Ray, thank you so much.
All right, I'll get down to see your place eventually.
Every time you give, you get, so give a little piece. A little piece of you. I know a little about a lot of things, that is true. One thing I know, true love will see you through. Oh. I've traveled the same roads that you've been down. Been to your cities and I've been to your towns. Saw the bright lights of Vegas and the dark in LA. Got nothing new to tell you, I ain't got nothing to say. All that I ask is one simple request. Just give Give me some peace, Lord, give me some rest. There ain't much difference between you and me, except you were blind and I can see. Got the best from the worst and the worst from the best. I skipped the class, but I passed the test. All that I ask is one simple request. Just give me some peace, Lord, give me some rest. Give me peace in the valley and a thrill on the hill. The strength for the good fight, the courage and will. I'll fight to the finish, I'll give it my best. Just give me some peace, Lord, give me some rest.